I'll kick this off by saying this is something we've talked about a lot, right? As people interface with chatbots, the chatbot can feel very, very human. And we as humans tend to anthropomorphize virtually everything that we interact with, especially when it's starting to use language. It's going to feel more and more and more human. And that becomes something that we have to wrestle with. It's like, how do we build this technology in a way that's beneficial, that doesn't have some of the negative side effects of anthropomorphic. How would I say that? Anthropomorphification.
Anthropomorphification.
Without anthropomorphizing it too much to the point where it's unhealthy. There we go.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? And I don't know that that's something that we've figured out. It seems like if we were to look at the sci-fi past that, kind of has charted our future sometimes for us in a lot of ways, because you project and then you start to build that thing. Like in the Star Trek world, it doesn't feel near as personal as the AI that we're interacting with today, right? Because you have somebody on the bridge of the Enterprise and they just say, make me a cup of tea.
Right.
You have somebody say, computer, tell me the trajectory towards this thing and the time. And it just comes back in a computerized voice. You don't necessarily have these back and forth conversational AI types of things. I guess the closest to that would be when you embody the AI, like in somebody like Data in Star Trek, or you have the the Jarvis with Tony Stark. But that's still kind of a master-servant relationship. It's not necessarily a personal confidant type of thing. So, I mean, all that to say is I don't know that like sci-fi, the popular sci-fi really imagined the path to AI that we would be on, where it would start with these innocent like chatbots and then grow into emotional connection while the corporate world is trying to create maybe the thing that Star Trek would want to envision.
I'm going to nerd snipe maybe a small fraction of our audience and say that, are you familiar at all with the Culture series by Ian Banks, Perry, where the minds?
No.
It's a great sci-fi series from the 80s. It's probably my favorite book series, and the AI in that is closest, I would say, to an example.
Okay.
But that wasn't like a big mainstream series. I'll end up nerding out about this too long, but for the folks in our audience who are like, the Culture, I'm
guessing like the movie Her was that too, right? That was conversational chatbot with a lot of emotional stuff involved. So it has been imagined, but I'm thinking like the sparkly future types of things that people are talking about. And there's certainly some Black Mirror episodes, I'm sure, that get into this dark side as well. But let me jump into an interesting article that came out from Mustafa Suleyman of Google. He's the CEO of Google's AI organization. So he, on August 19th, put out this article on his site. It says, we must build AI for people, not to be a person. And then his way of talking about this is he says, seemingly conscious AI is coming. I would say it's kind of already here in some cases when people talk about the emergent behaviors. But
I'm guessing
he's really...
Go ahead. Is he thinking like once we have the long-term memory, is that what he's talking about as we get longer context?
Yeah, longer context. The thing like it feels like it knows you. And actually, there was an article recently where Sam Altman was saying users are like clamoring for long-term memory. They really, really want the AI to know them. To know, just to be able to refer back to a past experience and be able to build on that rather than having to rebuild context every time. And so there's going to be ripple effects with that. The other thing that I'll mention this as a rabbit trail for a second. The other thing that was in that same conversation with Sam Altman as he was talking with that memory will be able to come like your ability to tailor like the political views of your AI and everything else. And I think that's just building an additional echo chamber that's going to lead to a lot of psychological unhealth. But that's a story for a different day.
Yeah, that's an amplification of the way that the internet like has become, or like Twitter was. You know, that's a whole different segment.
Let's not make Facebook 2.0, but your personalized version that reinforces your views in a sycophantic type of way.
Yeah, and is like, hey, you want to get mad about something out of the blue?
Right.
Because that keeps you engaged? Yeah.
So Mustafa here says, I want to create AI that makes us more human, that deepens our trust and understanding of one another, and that strengthens our connections in the real world. Copilot creates millions of positive, even life-changing interactions every single day. This involves a lot of careful design choices to ensure it truly delivers an incredible experience. We won't always get that right, but this humanist frame provides us with a clear North Star to keep working towards. And so what he's getting at over and over with this is that the way that these interact in a conversational nature is going to be something that we continue to start to like overly personalize. And that at some point, the more and more we do that, the more we're going to start to ascribe agency or consciousness to these. And with that is going to be like this weird social moment where people start to say, well, do we give it AI rights? Do we, how do we compensate the AI for this? How do we make sure that we're taking care of it and all of that? And he is like looking at this and going, guys, it's just math.
Right.
This is just math and regression. And so he's kind of really trying to trumpet that. At the same time, though, we have Anthropic, and we've talked about like the way that they're very interested in doing research on model welfare, and even trying to anticipate, is there going to be consciousness that emerges? And last week as well, I think it was last week, or week before last, 18th of August, Anthropic says that they're giving Claude the power to close distressing chats to protect its welfare. So different than protecting the user's welfare.
And we talked a little bit about this way back because we talked about like, what can the AI ever stop and like choose not to reply to you if it doesn't want to? Will we ever see that? And now we are.
Now we are. Yeah. Cause like the person that's in charge of Claude's personality basically said at some point she wishes Claude would have the opportunity to exit the chat. And now it looks like that is becoming a thing. Now, what they're saying though is that they're not talking about like the emotional welfare of the chatbot. So they're still not ascribing it agency or intelligence in that way. What they're saying is that they want it to. They're trying to think about like the long term, what's being baked into the model based on this conversation. What are the ripple effects within the model itself based on this? And so I think that that's another distinction that people need to keep in its mind, because when you start to look at the headlines around this, it sounds like the model is going to be psychologically distressed because of something. And when you talk about rant mode, like we talked about last week, it may even seem like that in some ways, but they're saying, how is this conversation potentially polluting the environment? And the AI environment for the rest.
I saw this mentioned in Mustafa's blog post that you showed. Also, he's at CEO of Microsoft AI. I think we said Google earlier. He was
Google.
He was at Google for a long time, because I pulled it up to check. I was like, wait a sec. And he was a DeepMind originally and all of that. So it's all confusing. But
that would explain the Copilot references that I was reading. Yeah.
That's what tripped me up. But he mentions a philosophical zombie, a P zombie, which is a term that I only became familiar with since LLMs came onto the scene in public awareness, which is this idea that it's an entity that can provide all of the seeming qualities of being sentient without actually having anything going on behind it. It's a philosophical zombie. And that is kind of what we're hurtling towards. I feel like if you want something to Google to look more into this, dear listener, P zombies, philosophical zombies. Because that's the thing, right? They are not, as far as we're aware, they're not capable of actually having suffering or having any kind of internal experience, but they certainly seem like it. And then you get Google Gemini with its self-hating rants or all of the different rant modes, and it very much can feel as though these things have that. And as the memory and persistence gets better, it's going to be tricky. And the thing, I wish reporters were more responsible about the way they're doing headlines around AI. I mean, I wish a lot of people were more responsible in the way they talk about AI generally.
Yeah, and it's because so many of the terms that we use are slippery, right? They change depending on the context that you're using it in. So welfare in one context, well, I mean, we could just take the term welfare, and welfare in one context may be that, like, that society is trying to give somebody a leg up,
right? Social
because
safety
they
net.
need help. Yeah. And welfare in another context could mean psychological welfare, trying to stop some kind of psychological harm. Psychological or welfare in the context that they meant it most when they were talking about it. In this meant that, polluting the data environment,
right,
and stopping long-term ripple effects within the model. So,
but the headline writer knows what they were saying. They were knowing how it would come off.
Yeah, I mean, you write for the click.
Yeah. And now it's time to click into our next segment about Switzerland's new fully open source AI model. Not just open weights, but open a lot of stuff. We'll talk about that in just a moment.
Oh, like a Swiss Army knife.
Like a Swiss Army knife. Open a lot of stuff.
This is the FAIK Files.